So, Professor Dr. Sibrandes Poppema, thank you for joining us today at the Institute and for your keynote speech. We would just like to ask you 4 questions to hear your thoughts and opinions on some issues.
First question, as Honorary Consul General of Korea, do you believe that education is the way to democracy and prosperity?
Well, actually, Korea is, I think, the country that has demonstrated that. I'm very proud to represent Korea in the Netherlands. Over the last years, they've done 2 things. You know, they've incredibly increased their economy, and at the same time, they've made a move from a dictatorship to a democracy. And I believe that education and all of that is very important. Korea at the same time is the country that has one of the highest percentages of people with higher education. And I think these 2 things really come together. They do, however, know that they're not yet there. You know, for them, innovation is going to be very important, and they realize that also the style of learning in Korea will need to change.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the second question. The collaboration between universities in different parts of the world, for example, between Europe and Asia, are very much increasing. Do you think that the migration of students going for an exchange year is a good example of cultural diplomacy in action?
Yes, I think exchange is very important, but equally important, or perhaps even more important, is students studying in another country. You know, when we talk about exchange, we're usually talking about 1 semester, which gives you some idea. But I think also doing, you know, full degree in another country, or nowadays in many situations doing a double degree or a joint degree, I think are probably even better methods than just simply exchange of students. What is also going to be important, I think, is what's now called the globalization of higher education, which is not so much just exchange of students, but also having campuses in other parts of the world. So bringing, for instance, in our case, Dutch-style education into Asia, or bringing, in the future, Asian-style education into Europe. And in that way, being able to have many more students that get exposure to different styles of learning and different culture.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And in your opinion, do you think that university and business leaders should create more opportunities for students to acquire competence for the workplace and engage with the communities?
Of course, yes. That I think that was one of the outcomes of the ASEM meeting that we had in Groningen. I believe that, you know, and there's academic training, and I said this morning also that academic training is really about keeping asking questions. You know, what you could do when you were a child, you should still be able to do that at the end of your study. Ask questions, ask original questions. What we do is give students the tools, the skills to actually answer those questions, and that to me is academic training. But also, of course, we have to prepare them for real life, which is for working in all sorts of environments, not just in their own country, not just in one profession, and also not just in big companies. So I think it's important to get exposure to big companies and work there increasingly, but at the same time to prepare people for starting their own business. And in all different areas. So, as I said this morning, it's for the humanities and the social sciences even more important than for business and science and engineering.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, then we move on to the last question. Do you think that the European Union should change its policy with regards to genetically modified crops, as the European Union will be unable to meet the increased demands for food and crops in a sustainable and environmentally friendly way?
Well, let's say yes, because I think you know, a clear answer is probably helping. I strongly believe that it is, and maybe not so much talking about Europe, but I'm talking about the world. When we think about being able to feed all people in Africa, we know that for that it is necessary that agriculture in Africa is becoming a lot more productive than it is now. Right now, there is no security in crops in Africa. You know, it's the weather. The crops go to waste one year, the next year it's fine, then it's going to waste again. We cannot provide we cannot put in as many toxic elements as we've been doing in the past, so it's really necessary to find another solution. There is one, and that's called genetically modified crops. What I was talking about this morning is that we have one project at University of Groningen, which we do together with Michigan State University, with all sorts of governments in Africa. It's being sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and it's really about regulation. So before starting with genetically modified crops in Africa, what we do right now is we train government officials in all of those countries, 7 different countries, to actually how to regulate genetically modified crops. And we believe it's very important to first do that, and only after that introduce these crops. And I really think that yes, it is necessary. I also think that Europe should change its attitude towards that, because it will be necessary for mankind in the future. We do have the technology to do it. We can actually provide the regulations to do it well, but that will only work when we first recognize it. You know, this is a typical Dutch thing. First recognize, make regulations, and then execute it in the right way.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time, and it's been an honor and privilege to have you here at the ICT. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.